I'd like to introduce you to Sabrina Ponikvar Cooper, a graduate of O'Hare University and dental hygienist and nutritional expert. So first of all, I just want to take you back so you can tell everybody kind of like where you come from, where you're living now, and all the early stuff in your life.
So I started in St. Catharines, and I had a really big interest in dental hygiene at a very, very young age because my uncle was a dentist in St. Catharines. And so I was influenced by the hygienist he actually had. She was very friendly, and she was just so warm and made my dental visits very enjoyable. And so I always said, oh, I want to be just like her when I grow up. I want to be like, she was fun and funky. Anyway, fast forward, I kind of like teeter-totter between that, and then I started maybe teaching accounting, and then I went into co-op. I went to co-op a placement for high school and decided I might as well try it and see what it's like to be in a dental office. And I really enjoyed the place where I was at. The dentist, it was very welcoming, and so was the staff, and hit it off. They actually had me working right off the bat as a dental assistant, helping out. The dentist was like, very not doing x-rays, just, doing the minimal things that I could do.
Yeah.
But it was really nice. And so that led me into dental assisting, which then led me into my dental hygiene career. They're like, no, you have to go further. Like, you have to do this. But in Canada at the time, you had to do dental assisting first, then you had to do a work period, and then go to school again, and then reapply for dental hygiene. You couldn't go right into it as it is now. And so that was kind of the way. So instead of, I kind of bypassed it and decided I would go to the United States to study because it was close to home, not far. Because I was going to get an associate's degree upon graduating, opposed to a diploma that they were offering in Canada. So I went that route, and I graduated in 2000 from Monroe Community College in Rochester. So I lived in Rochester for a little bit of time. And then from there, I actually I met a dentist who was looking for someone to go work in Italy. So I went right off to Naples, Italy, and worked for 4 years there. And it was a great experience. I worked with, a prosthodontist and orthodontist, periodontist, like just a plethora of people who just had just enormous amounts of knowledge. And just coming right out of school to a place where it didn't really have hygiene as a program or as a treatment, really, there was no school set up yet for dental hygiene back then. It was just sort of getting going. It was interesting treating patients who were kind of leery about this and wanting to pay for something that they were like, I don't need this, So it was really interesting.
Can I stop you there for a sec? So
yeah.
Did you go to Italy not speaking any Italian?
No Italian. No
wow,
Italian. My mom's,
that was brave.
I speak Spanish. I have Spanish as a background, and some French because we lived in Canada. Of course, we learned both languages, English and French. And so, yes, it was no family there, just myself. And so I guess being an only child maybe helped me along that. I traveled quite a bit with to Mexico. So, but it was it was a little nerve wracking, but I was excited. I was very, very excited on this journey. And so,
how did you, sorry to interrupt you. How did you manage the language problem in Italy?
So basically the dentist, I should have said this, the dentist who was looking for someone who wanted to start this program, dental hygiene in his office, studied in Rochester at the Eastman Dental School. And so he was very keen on expanding his office. That dentist that brought me on, it didn't quite work out the way I had planned. And so I found another dentist who also studied in Boston. And that's where I spent the 4 years in his office. And as well, he spoke English very, very, very well. And I just kind of had like he translated a lot of the things that I did. He would explain what I was doing. And then slowly but surely, I started to learn the words and what I needed to say. And it was broken, and it was Neapolitan at that. So Neapolitan is a dialect of Italy. So it was a challenge to understand if I was learning Italian, Neapolitan, like a little Spanish thrown in there. So, but I was able to communicate. So that so that's how I kind of did that.
So what advice would you give somebody who was thinking of going from USA or Canada to Italy or a Mediterranean European country like that?
I think, I honestly think it's a really great experience to go off and travel before you actually settle down in a practice. I mean, my thought process when I went into dental hygiene was that I didn't want to be stuck, or not stuck, but confined to four walls, and just be in one practice the whole time. I wanted to experience different areas of dentistry as well, and in different areas of the world, because we can get caught up that we're that one way is the right way, maybe, and maybe other parts of the world aren't as great, or they don't have the knowledge, but there's so much more knowledge everywhere. And I just think it's a great experience to expand and learn new skills. I mean, coming right out of school for myself and working on patients who had never seen a hygienist before just sharpened those skills right up, I tell you. Like it was a lot of hand scaling, and really people would be like, how do you get this done so fast? Like when I came home to Toronto, and I would be like, well, if you saw the D and E, I don't know, the classification of calculus and periodontal disease, then you know that the patients here in North America are not as bad as you would seem to imagine, right? Like, so it really did sharpen my skills in a great way,
Yeah.
and I would definitely recommend it. Just on a side note, I do it led to volunteer work as well. Once I returned home from Italy and had that great experience, I said, like, I really definitely need to do something. I didn't have children. I wasn't able to have children when I got married. So I said, I want to do something for children. And so I thought, what a better way than to ever just donate my time to children and dental care. It was my wish when my grandmother was around in Mexico. I said, I am going to come to Mexico and give all the kids in the neighborhood dental care. This is when I was young. And she passed on. So I wanted to live this memory on, and this thing that I wanted to do. So I found a group in United States called Global Dental Relief. And they're a great organization who do worldwide volunteering projects for dental. And so I started in Guatemala, since it was Spanish speaking, and did 8 years consecutively there,
Wow.
working with children in that group. My husband came along as a non-dental volunteer, so he was sterilizing instruments and engaging with the children. And so I also encourage a lot of volunteering as well, because it's just there's so much need everywhere, and if you're afraid to travel to these other big countries, like that are far, it's expensive. There are some ones that are like not as expensive and more affordable, and you can give back while also being on vacation. So it's kind of a win-win, right? Like for us as professionals to give back.
Sure. I mean, that's fantastic. So you've been donating a lot of your time for a very long time for
Yes.
these people.
Yes, quite a bit of a time. And I'm actually, and now, as we'll get into the conversation, kind of shifting into a different direction. But I also am going to be just doing some trip leading with the organizations as well, and leading the dental hygiene areas with the experience and knowledge that I've had from past trips, to help everybody else navigate on their first volunteer trips, because they can be a little daunting at times when you don't have all your comforts of a regular clinic environment.
So you decided to choose O'Hare University to complete your bachelor's degree. And correct me if I'm wrong, I reckon that was about 6 years ago.
I think so. Your guess is fine. Time's just going by, and with COVID years that you've lost, it seems like just yesterday. But yeah, I think it's probably about that.
So how was that experience for you?
I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the one-on-one learning experience. It expanded as well, like ways of thinking and expressing and questioning, like just different like aspects of dental hygiene that I had never thought of really that way. So it really, really expanded the way that I thought of dental hygiene, and it grew my practice. When I was in practice in clinical, it really did, like all the motivational interviewing and all the projects that we did. I mean, I did one on dry brushing. And
Sure.
and so that was, I know I had all my patients, and all the patients that I had asked to try this with me, along with me, were still doing it when I left my practice just recently, and they were very grateful for it. And so, you know, it was a great experience.
That's very kind of you to say that. As somebody that's been developing the curriculum, for somebody to say to us that the one big thing was it changed the way that you were thinking is probably the biggest compliment that you could give us, because that's really what we're trying to do, is just get people to think differently. So that's fantastic. So then after that, was it after that or before that or during that you started to get into
It was
nutrition?
kind of around that, yeah, it was kind of around that same time. Sorry to interrupt. It was kind of around that same time. You know, throughout my career, I really noticed, I kind of did my own little study, I guess, if you want, if you will, about like just not writing things down, but in the chart, I would kind of note things on different individuals that I was seeing. And I noticed that a lot of them, the one common thing in a lot of individuals was nutrition and stress played a big role in the oral health of these individuals. And so when they started to make these shifts, if they were calm and then started to they would come to me and be like, oh, I'd poke their mouths and I'd be like, what's wrong? Like, why is there all this inflammation and what is going on? And then they would tell me all, like they would, like I would start asking motivational, you know, questions, and I would ask all these things in order to get some information. And I realized that they were going through a stressful period, or maybe they were like, you know, gone through some loss, or there was just a lot of things going on. And so then the following appointments, or few, you know, they would kind of get better, and I'd give them some things to do. And as soon as that kind of fizzled out, it was so much better. Or even with nutrition, it was changing their dietary habits. And things started shifting, you know, and I was like, either for the better or for the worse. And so that became a big part of my treatment planning, was nutritional counseling, mind, body, and just not giving them a regime, but just including it in my talk to them, or my, you know,
Sure.
educational piece with them.
So did you notice that you would get better results from patients when they changed their nutrition to a healthier nutrition rather than the same old brush and floss lecture?
I did. I really did notice that, just by changing a few tweaks, and for them focusing more on eating whole foods, abandoning some eating practices that they had already originally had. And they kind of did it on their own accord. It wasn't like I said, okay, here's a diet plan and here's what you have to do. I just began telling them what I was experiencing as myself, and my experiences
Right.
of what I was going through my own personal growth in nutrition, and trying to heal myself with foods, because I began to take a course, a certified culinary nutrition program. And so it was all basically through food. There was no medications or vitamins, just everything through your food. And so that began to be incorporated. And so, yeah, it was a big, huge shift. And people just, I couldn't believe it. I honestly was just, you know, I was no longer really going like brush and floss, because everybody like, I know, I need to floss more. Like that's the big thing, right? So when they would come in, they'd be like, oh, I'm enjoying fruits and I'm eating healthier. And I'm like, wow, you look great, fabulous. Like, wow, your teeth are looking great. Like your gums are so much better. They would be more motivated to continue this on. And so this just continued my journey. And I thought, you know, I love my dental hygiene career, but I really had been doing it for a long time. And I kind of felt like I just wanted to shift gears a little bit, not to abandon it, but just to kind of focus more on something that I was really passionate about, and learn more about it. And that's what brings me to where I am today.
So how did your diet change, your personal diet? Because you're saying that your own personal diet kind of led you down that path.
Right. So, you know, overall, I was pretty good. I went to Italy, had pretty, you know, their Mediterranean style of eating is pretty good, but there was a lot of things that weren't working. I wasn't like, ended up, you know, having to make great decisions. Anyway, so it shifted a lot of stuff in my body. And I realized I had a thyroid condition, autoimmune disorder called Hashimoto's. And I realized that when I was not able to have children, they realized that, endocrinologists realized that that was kind of the shift point that it had gotten to. And so I knew I had to do some changes. So I started to do my own little research and look into things along with my course, and cut out like gluten and sugar. Lactose was very, like, dairy. I didn't do any dairy for a long time, just to get myself back into a better anti-inflammatory state.
Like, so
And
how difficult did you find it to stop those three things? And how difficult do you find it to continue stopping those three things?
You know what? Like, at first I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. And, but when I realized how much it affected myself, like like if I did go back to that, revert to sugars and how I felt, I realized that it really had to be a continuous thing. And it really isn't quite the effort, like, at all, because you realize how the positive impact it has when you do abandon these things that aren't doing you well or serving you well, right? And so it just made me continue this process. So eating a lot more whole foods, and not to say I've become more mindful about it, and I teach food inclusivity and weight inclusivity. So it's not about like thin is in, it's like more about treating your body and giving it what it needs. So for me, gluten doesn't serve me, but it might serve someone else, and that's okay. I'm not saying there's good foods and bad foods either. It's just, how is it affecting you or overall systemic health? And that's what you have to take in consideration, because everybody is different, and that is what I teach everyone that I come across, all my clients. I teach everybody is different. There's no one set form. There's no set diet. Somebody can do really well on keto for short term, I would say, or something paleo, like everything is short term, but diet shouldn't be in our vocabulary. It should just be a way of eating, right? So for me, that's how it became. It just became a way of eating. And I think more of it became the people who would look at me and be like, you're too healthy, you're too this. And I was like, maybe. And then more intern mindful perspective was, they're kind of deflecting on me because maybe they don't feel so good about themselves, and maybe I need to do some work with them a little bit to, and then slowly they start to shift, they start being like, wow, she really looks great. So then they begin eating healthy and changing their mindset as well. So yeah, I think it's one step at a time. And maybe, I started with the gluten and then and went that way, but that was the main one that I had to focus on.
That's really funny. I guess if you are healthy yourself, it's a good starting point if you're going to teach people. So I was going to ask you, what will be your one take-home message? I guess that will be it, is it? That there is no one size fits all.
Pretty much. I think, I think because there's so much diversity. I also just started I should mention, I just was going to mention, but I started a charity called the Nourish Well Community Project, which is healthy food initiatives for youth in low-income communities facing maybe food scarcity. Because my business is Nourish Well, where I was doing hands-on food initiatives for children and youth. But because of COVID, that all kind of went to a stop. And then I kind of shifted gears towards women and women health, like mainly over 40. That's where I'm headed. So a lot of people have like a lot of these questions because we begin to shift again. Just when we get things straight, it's again like a hormonal shift again. So there's a lot of things going on in our bodies. And so I guess, like, with say that being said, it's that because there's so much diversity, you can't really say, well, I want you to eat whole foods all the time, because it might not be affordable for some. And so you have to change gears and figure out what is the most important thing to keep this group healthy, or what is the most important thing to keep me healthy. And that's why I feel like when you see these fad diets, it's not a long-term thing, a long-term goal. It should just be a lifestyle.
Sure, that's fantastic. So tell us about your typical week now then. How does your week look?
My week as in food, or as in my week as in work and lifestyle?
Your typical professional week. How does it work?
Well, it kind of, I really enjoy the flexibility. However, I find myself very busy with clients online virtually now. I also have a social media page that I maintain. So I'm writing posts and researching information to keep on top of, things that I feel are of value. And I post those as well. And then I also, I'm part of a volunteer associate an organization called Rio de Sol USA, who provides education for children. So I'm the president of that. So I'm also busy organizing things with that as well. And yeah, I'm just kind of a little bit everywhere. And I'm studying, still completing my mindful eating certification and my holistic nutrition certification, just finishing that up. So it's keeping me quite busy.
That sounds a pretty busy week. Are you still practicing in clinical hygiene?
Right now, I took a little bit of I call it soul-batical, I guess, like as most people would say. I'm just, during COVID, I was working 1 day a week and I was in the city. So I just let that job go because it was not, it was creating more stress than needed to figure out ways to get in and out. And I just thought, you know what, I just have to listen to what's inside and take a break, take a step back. And as I said, I will start focusing on doing more trip leading now that everything is opening up and we can travel again, and focusing on that. So I will probably get back maybe into some temporary work or anything like that around this area. But
that's fantastic. Following your dream. So what, the last question, where do you see yourself in about 5 years' time? Where will you be in the future? Doing
5 years' time. If I could snap my fingers and make it happen, I would love to start a whole wellness clinic, a wellness facility, I guess, or house in this area that's by the lake. I'm living now by the lake, where it would have whole foods and people could come and do some yoga retreats and more intimate well-being, soulful healing for the mind and body.
That sounds brilliant. Book me in.
I'll get that. I'm going to get that. I put it out there. So, it's making it happen now.
Yeah. Tell the universe. That's fantastic. I've really, really enjoyed talking with you. And we are really proud of you to have you in our alumni as well.